What's going on, everybody? GemMint here. You know, over at Comic Time 101, we do 2 videos a week. We talk about the top 10 hottest back issues in the market and the 10 honorable mentions that didn't quite make that list. Well, we have had a huge record-breaking sale that we reported on. It's a comic book that outsold any other comic book in history, so I thought I would bring Tom onto the channel to not only talk about that, but to talk about all these crazy sales that we've been reporting on for over a year.
Hit that subscribe button, Geminites. You're in for a treat today because we've been following the market for over a year now. The comics defining this generation of collectors, the hottest books in the world every single week, and the numbers are in with a new leading sale that's going to change the market landscape forever. Buckle up. We got some major prices to discuss.
That's right, guys. Hit that like button while we jump into the first book on our list. We're talking about Tomb of Dracula 10, the first appearance of Blade, the Vampire Hunter.
The 9.8 record breaker was set 3 months ago for $28,800 to be outdone this very week, selling for an all-new high for a 9.8 at $48K. There is one single 9.9 grade in existence of this book, and it sold for over a year ago. I suspect there will be price correction.
Yeah, that's crazy. $48,000 for a 9.8. There is one sole 9.9 in existence on the CGC census. It sold for $4,370 back in 2005. Then, in June of 2020, that same book sold for $29K. But here we are, a 9.8, almost double that. Just imagine what that 9.9 is going to do when it hits the market again.
Next on the list is Silver Surfer 3, the first appearance of Mephisto. Only 8 9.8s in existence. And we're talking about the record being set in November 2020. Prior to the Mephisto craze, the speculation, before it even got into full gear, starting with WandaVision, we're talking a $5,700 sale, setting this price back in 2011 to be outdone with a $38,000 sale at the end of 2020.
And even though we didn't get Mephisto in WandaVision or in Loki, it's looking like he might be playing Doctor Strange in Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm just kidding, but the theory's out there. The next crazy record-breaking sale on the list is Journey into Mystery Annual 1, which, let's face it, it's a spec book. It's the first appearance of Hercules and Zeus, which are rumored to be in Thor Love and Thunder, but it's a 9.8. That's going to make it a coveted Silver Age book either way. And we're talking about a book that sold for $6,075 back in 2003. The last record-breaking sale, February of 2020, put it at $73,000.
And there's only one 9.8 in existence, so whether it be spec or not, this book may not come to market for quite a long time. It took nearly 2 decades for this copy to come back up.
And you know, we talked about that Silver Surfer 3 with that deep red cover, but there was another book, one that kind of set the trend on high-grade Silver Age blood red background books. Hit him with it, Tom.
We're talking Batman 181, one of 3 9.8 copies in existence, the first appearance of Poison Ivy, also seeing a little bit of a downtrend for a brief moment in its sales historical record. Well, it didn't last long. Started back in 2011, selling for $13,500, then in 2014 dropping to $11,000, but we're in a completely different marketplace now. The new 9.8 record was set in November 2020, selling for a all-new price of $90,000.
That girl is poison.
Sing it, Gem. Got us dancing like Alfred Molina, who's going to be reprising his role in the upcoming Spider-Man movie, putting Amazing Spider-Man 3 on major spec radar and multiple lists. We're talking the first appearance of Dr. Octopus.
And we're talking about a CGC 9.8, which there are only 2 in existence. Now check this, there were no prior record of any sales before this one, which sold for $115,000.
And that was back in November 2020. I suspect one of 2 of these to come to the market at some point as we get closer to the movie, just like the first appearance of Batgirl.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about Detective Comics 359, the first appearance of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. Now, DC has been severely behind in the key issue race, but they got a couple of bangers that make the list, and I think we'll see a couple more towards the end. But we're talking about a CGC 9.8. There's only 4 in existence. First, we had a sale of $18,250 back in 2014. That was the record holder. But in January of this year, 2021, we had a sale of $132,000.
We've heard for years that Barbara Gordon would be seeing her time on the screen, getting her moment to star in her own movie or series. And we found out this very year that actress Leslie Grace will be taking on just that role for HBO Max.
All right, guys, next up on the list, we're talking about a blue chip Marvel key that was always criminally undervalued. And actually, Key Collector did the math to find out that it really was undervalued until we had this record-breaking sale. A CGC 9.8, only one of two in existence.
Yeah, Key Collector really brought the heat with this one because we reported on this book multiple times, allowing a lot of members to get in early before the prices really took off. Key Collector has a lot of information that the community can utilize on a weekly basis, but it categorizes a bunch of key comic books as well as prices across the board so you don't have to. And the Geminites can use code TOM101 to unlock a free 2-week service to try out the full app in its entirety. But the main utilization is free for everyone to use. We're talking about Daredevil 1, never having a prior sale recorded at a 9.8 until March of this year, selling for $250,000, changing the landscape forever.
Yeah, from then on, we saw that trickle-down effect. All the other grades started increasing in prices, as they should. And speaking of another Marvel blue chip that was always undervalued, we're talking Fantastic Four issue 1, Marvel's first family, the first appearance of the Fantastic Four, and we're talking about a CGC 9.0. Now, back in 2017, we had a big sale, $161,000, but in April of this year, in 2021, that same grade sold for $264,000.
And that's a huge uptick considering that there are 10 copies in existence at this grade. And it's almost as impressive as how much Ghost Rider has moved in this market. We're talking about his first appearance in Marvel Spotlight number 5, the first appearance of Johnny Blaze.
And we're talking about a 9.8. There's only 4 in existence. Now, back in 2013, this book sold for $13,000. In 2016, it jumped up to $48,000. But Tom, let him know what it sold for in June of this year.
We're talking an increase for a 9.8, selling at $264,000 this year. Can you feel the blue chip effect? Comics have never sold like this in history.
That's right, and we're only about halfway through this list, so before we move forward, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Street Level Hero. SLHLA.com has exclusive variants with new drops every Tuesday and Thursday, just like this X-Men 4 David Nakayama Cyclops variant. You can save 10% off of this or any item on the store by using the code GemMint at checkout. Just like their sister site, THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.com, who has $30 mystery boxes where you're guaranteed 5 comics of retail value. One of those lucky boxes is going to have their GP, their giveaway prize, which is this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 51, the 1 out of 10 ratio variant, which is the first appearance of Jennica in a 9.8. Save 10% anytime you buy a box there by using the code GemMint at checkout, and this round ends on September 22nd. All right, guys, now, I mentioned Fantastic Four. I always put X-Men 1 kind of in that same category. Back when AF-15 and Hulk 1 were doing their thing, these books were overlooked, but X-Men and Fantastic Four have been shown some serious love in the comic book market with the announcement of Disney acquiring the rights from Fox. So we're here to talk about an X-Men 1 and a CGC 9.6. There's only 4 in existence.
In 2011, this book could have been secured for $200,000, and then in 2013, it went up to $250,000 until June of this year, landing an all-new record breaker. I suspect going to blow past the $1 million marker eventually, a new record at $807,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. From $250K to $800K, and we haven't even seen a trailer, haven't had a casting rumor or anything yet for the X-Men. But enough about Marvel. We know that DC really shines with their golden age first appearances. We're talking Detective Comics 27, the first appearance of Batman.
Keep in mind that these golden age books don't come up very often, so pay attention to the dates, because when we hit you with some other comics on this list, it's going to make you rethink these prices. We have a Detective Comics 27, the first appearance of Batman, hitting $1.5 million in November 2020.
And that's for a 7.0. Now put that in perspective, a CGC 8.0 sold for $1.7 million back in 2011, so imagine what that would do if it hit the market today.
Then we have the highly respected and wanted Marvel Comics issue number 1. Doesn't come up often, especially at a 9.4, last selling in 2019 for $1.26 million.
Yeah, it's not every day you get to see a Golden Age Marvel book, and this is the granddaddy of them all, where Timely became Marvel. Then we're going to move back on over to DC. Now, it's interesting. Batman 1 is such a coveted book because it's not the first appearance of Batman. It's the first in title, but the first appearance of the Joker. And we have two huge sales to report on. A CGC 8.0 back in April of 2021 sold for $1.2 million. But earlier than that, we had a 9.4 hit the market. And it's so crazy to think of how close these two books came to market with how rare they are in high grade. But in January of 2021, that 9.4 sold for $1.5 million.
Awfully close to that 8.0. Imagine what these prices would go for when you hear the all-time record breaker for any comic book in history. But let's hit him with the most wanted, the first superhero comic book, Action 1.
That's right, the granddaddy of them all, Action 1, the first appearance of Superman, the first superhero book. Now we're going to take a look to see what a CGC 8.5 has done over the past few years.
Yeah, let's actually show them the growth of this book over time. In 2010, an 8.5 could have been secured for $1.5 million. Then 3 years later, for an 8.5, we saw an uptick to $1.75 million.
5 years later, in 2018, it goes for $2.05 million. And then this year, April 2021, the record-breaking sale, the all-time high for a comic book, $3.25 million.
And here's the thing. This is a book from 1938. And leading our list is a book from 1962, the first appearance of Spider-Man, a Silver Age book.
You know what's funny? When I first got GPA, which is the subscription-based service, the website that tracks all these CGC sales via eBay and other auction houses, I would always look at like key books like AF-15, what's the highest it ever sold for? And I always remember seeing that 9.6 sold for $1.1 million. Funny enough, that same grade, there's only 4 in existence, just sold for the highest amount a comic book has ever sold for, beating out Action 1, selling for $3.6 million.
Considering that this book hasn't come to market since 2011, selling for $1.1 million, this uptick has major ramifications for every other number on this list. We're only beginning to see the price rise on most of these key books.
I think what Tom is trying to say is that AF-15 is the king for now, but with this new precedence, we're probably going to see these Golden Age keys, these other big blue chip keys start selling and outbeating this price. But let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like, subscribe to the channel with the notification bell so you don't miss a video, and swing over to Comic Tom 101. Like I said, we do 2 videos together there every single week, plus Tom has a lot of great content as well. Why don't you let him know what else you got going on over there?
We do a podcast every single week. We do Hot 10 trending videos with Overstreet Price Guide advisors, of course, videos with GemMint, as well as Golden Age specialists. Come check us out and stay minty fresh, Geminites.
And geek responsibly.
Enough said.
Peace.